I was fortunate enough to be able to discover from an early age the possibility to see things through different perspectives, through different lenses. And I discovered that that sometimes made me a bit of a difficult person, maybe a rebel. I was always challenging things and looking at things from different perspectives. How I got to that is the story for another video. But then I became very curious about how it is that someone can see things from different angles and someone else maybe resists. I studied leadership, neuroscience, biochemistry, physiology, and I experienced being in innovation and actually driving innovation as a business manager. And I gradually formed some ideas about how we become especially creative, originally creative. Anybody can do that, but we need to know what we're looking for, and we need to practice. Uh, it is obvious that at the basis of being an original thinker, there is creativity, there is curiosity. Sorry, in order to be creative and thinking originally, we need to be curious. We need to want to dig and look at things in different ways. But it's not enough. There are things that sometimes block some of us. So I think that the most important thing that everybody can practice, and we must practice if we want to be seeing things differently and develop new ideas and be creative and innovative and maybe original. Original in itself is not a goal, but obviously bringing up something new can stimulate a debate, can make us learn something new. And the most important thing is not to be afraid to come up with bad ideas. Original ideas are not necessarily good ideas, but they challenge the status quo. They can stir up a dialogue. They can provoke alternative ways of tackling problems, challenges, issues. If you're afraid of bad ideas or ideas that are not immediately applicable or accepted by others or whatever it is that is blocking you, the fear in itself is a big trap that absorbs a lot of energy and prevents us from being free to explore with our curiosity, with our genuine curiosity. So the big enemy of original thinking, being afraid of coming up with bad ideas. We need to fail. We need to have stupid thoughts. So we need to come up with crazy things that don't work, and be kind with ourselves and accept that there are things that are not applicable or not feasible, or that maybe don't add that much, even if they're original and interesting. Maybe they're not as extraordinary and as genial and bringing us general recognition as we would have maybe expected. But still, they are good things for us to practice and for exchanging with other people. So not being afraid of having bad ideas is so important. It deals with, being comfortable in your skin. And on that same theme, being comfortable with inside your skin and feeling comfortable with yourself and accepting that sometimes some ideas are not very interesting and some other times they are really, wow, very, very useful. That means that the second point that we need to cultivate is the ability to work from our own authentic self without judgment. Sometimes we think in terms of strengths and weaknesses. Some people are more introspective. Some people develop ideas by confronting loudly others. Some just go and sit quietly or read quietly on their own. Some people need to sit, some people need to walk. We all are different, and there isn't a perfect way. We need to be sure that we understand ourselves, and if our way of coming up with ideas is maybe to be a bit loud, a bit provocative, and to fight, of course, we we can benefit from learning how to collaborate and communicate in a way that doesn't push people away. But if we are feisty, then that's not a weakness. That's how we are. And if that is how we come up with ideas, then we need to follow who we are and accept who we are. So, not afraid of having bad ideas, not afraid of being who we are, whichever way we are, and not expecting that we have to be in a certain way. Building on our weaknesses if we see them as weaknesses, or being authentic, and then taking the time that it takes. Taking the time that it takes is a very strange way of expressing it, but owning the the time and taking it. It takes time to refine some ideas, to launch them, to work them out with others, maybe to come back again and again to dialogue with other people. Original thinkers are not setting up very specific plans and timelines, especially in discussions with other people. If you want to create an environment where people can become original thinker in terms of being innovative and being able to think classically outside the box, you cannot have point one, point two, point three in an agenda and expect that there will be specific timings. Not for ourselves and not for others. Anything that is imprisoning rules, timelines, is going to refrain us from going freely into exploring and coming up with something original. So, three very important aspects. And of course, I, I have to mention also peer pressure. It's one of the fears. It's one of the traps. It can be quite hard, even for people with a lot of self confidence, to come up with the different ideas, with the critical questions, with challenging the status quo, when there is a consolidated way of doing things, when there is a consolidated group thinking. It is hard to be alone in front of others, and you would almost think against others. It's not really against, it's not a war, but it does feel like that sometimes when there is a consolidated way of thinking. And others might actually act defensively as if there was a war or an attack. They might feel threatened by the single voice that says something completely different. It is common to have the original thinker being asked to shut up, or maybe even rebuked, or even reprimanded for disturbing the establishment. Because it could be a threat. It could be a threat to provoke it, to change things. And so we need to understand that as we go about being, challenging and creative and original thinkers, we might shake some establishments and create some defensiveness. So communication can also be quite a useful tool to learn for original thinkers. Being able to share the intention not to be in a war, being able to talk about ideas, offering them as a gift rather than imposing. So important. That is certainly a set of skills, communication skills, listening, understanding, checking understanding, responding, offering, a set of communication skills, giving, and a lot of these communication skills are also to be found in some of our training courses. So check other parts of the website, and maybe you will see some other hints that can stimulate your own original thinking.